welcome to the book club. Welcome to another session where we talk about books. So what I'm trying to do is make a video on the books that I've read every month and a half or so. So I have quite some books to show you. We'll get into the details of each single book right now, basically. So this is the first book. It's called Talking to Strangers by Malcom Gladwell. You might have heard of him. He was a guest on Oprah's Soul Cycle podcast, where actually they talked about this book. Maybe they have a second podcast. So with Talking to Strangers, Malcom Gladwell explains that communication doesn't always go as we think that it should go. For example, not everyone reacts the same way to a murder, which is the case with the Amanda Knox file that he went into. Another example that is being written about in the book and being analyzed is the Bernie Madoff scandal. I would describe this book as kind of a psychological, sociological analysis of certain examples. I think it dives into about 5 or maybe 6 examples of how people react or con people, and also the prejudices that unfortunately our system has. And the way that he writes is just so good. He writes in a super compelling way. It's not too tough to get through. It's actually quite lightly written, which makes it just incredibly fun to read because, of course, the material that he speaks about is quite tough or could be quite tough. But with his sarcasm and jokes in between, it's just very nice. I think I gave this 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. If we're not yet friends on Goodreads, don't forget to add me. I'll put my username somewhere on the screen and also in the description box. Again, I think everyone should read this. I'm also super curious to read more of his books, especially The Tipping Point and Outliers. Book number 2 is, I think we might have a visitor soon. Hello! So we have a visitor. This is book number 2, What I Know for Sure by Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a woman that I think everyone in the world knows. But to give you an idea, if you don't know who we are talking about, Oprah Winfrey had a show for about 25 years, which is just unheard of. She is amazing with people. Another thing that I found out through this book is that actually her youth was very tough. This book goes a little bit deeper into that. The book is not written as a story. It's also not short stories. It's just, let me show you. These are, for example, 2 separate stories. You can tell by the leaf on either page. It's just about experiences that she's been through or things that she has learned through experiences or through one of the thousands of people that she met. I just really enjoyed reading it. I think I finished it in 2 days, so it's not like a super heavy read. It's just a very nice thing to read when you have time and you want to maybe expand your life knowledge. I also love the book. I don't know if you can see this, but it's amazingly shiny. This is also shiny, and there's a beautiful tree on the back. I mean, I believe my Goodreads says that I gave it maybe 4 stars. For this kind of genre, I think it's a really nice written book. Also, I like this. Put in the comments if you think hardcover or paperback is better. In my opinion, hardcover is just the best. It's beautiful. It's just, I love it. But I have some friends who think paperback is better, which I get, but let me know what you think. Book number 3 is The Girl in the Tower by Katherine Arden. This book is part of a trilogy. It is book number 2. The first book is called The Bear and the Nightingale. It's kind of like another Russian fairy tale kind of vibe. It is set in Moscow, 14th century, and it follows a girl. It also followed the same girl in the first book. Pretty sure it will follow the same girl in the third book. Haven't read that one though. This book tells the story of her dressing herself as a guy, living the best life, because in 14th century Russia, men could do anything and women were just being kept in towers. Very good title. I did like the first book a bit better, but that is almost always the case with more series books. Not always. But I really liked it. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars on Goodreads. It's just a very cute book to read before falling asleep. And also if you're into fairy tales or Russian fairy tales or just fantasy in general, I can highly recommend this book. Also, our visitor is still here. I will shortly introduce her if you're curious. This is Meta. She's adorable, but she's so hairy. Let's get back into the books. Book number 4 is a huge one and one that I absolutely loved. It's Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. Maas? I'm not sure. I know that she's not Dutch, but Maas is just such a Dutch name. You might have heard of Sarah J Maas before because she has two awesome different series which are called... The first series that I read by Sarah J Maas is the Throne of Glass series, and the second series that I'm still reading, but she's taking her time writing it, which is good. I mean, quality over quantity, but I really want to read the next book. The other series is called The Court of Thorns and Roses series. Okay, so that's also the name of the first book of that series, and this again will be a series. I don't know of how many books, but I think again maybe 6 or 7. This is set in Crescent City. Crescent City is, by the way, also the name of the series, which I did not explain before. It follows a girl who... Okay, I'm gonna be honest, the first 30 pages were really hard for me to get into, maybe also because I had super high expectations because I love the other series so much, but I finally got in and she just murders basically all the characters, which... that was heartbreaking. I was like, I'm finally loving this book and you're killing all the amazing characters. But that got better very, very quickly, thank God. It follows the only girl that is left after the mass slaughter. She appears to be quite an interesting, strong woman, and she meets this handsome, very sweet but dark person. I mean, obviously. They have to work together. First, kind of don't like each other, and then obviously like each other because... duh. The two of them find out who had killed the, at that point, 3 years ago, I think, slaughter. And I'm not gonna spoil anything because I really think that you should read this book. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads. Yes, maybe even 5. I'm critical, but this was just... I love how she writes. I know that she is very hyped, but to be honest, I think it's really worth the hype. Last but not least, The Education of an Idealist, a memoir by Samantha Power. So you might remember her from being the UN ambassador during Obama's second term. She was also in his administration during the first term, but not as a UN ambassador. In this book, she explains everything about basically where she was born, to her moving to America from Ireland and becoming a war journalist, then meeting Obama after she finished law at Harvard and becoming the UN ambassador. In between the very serious stories, she also shares some personal bits, which I personally also really loved because it makes it much more accessible. I really enjoy the way that she wrote about her own life, which one is not an easy thing to do. She just really managed to look at herself in a very critical way, but also in a very human way. As a Dutch person, I don't really know much about US politics. I mean, I know that Trump's the president, obviously, stuff like that. And I'm gonna be superficial because it's hardcover once more, which I did not know actually when I ordered it, which is stupid. Then again, something else which is cool, it has this extra layer, an extra cover. It looks like this beneath it, which is a little bit more boring, but still very nice because they shine, they shimmer. Another special thing about this book is that it contains some very high quality pictures of her life, such as her pictures from her youth up until pictures that Obama met her daughter, stuff like that, which again, it's just a really, really nice added touch to this book. So to sum up my love for this book, I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, maybe 4. I can highly recommend it to you if you're even slightly interested in politics. Thank you for watching this video on the books that I've read the past month and a half. So I'm trying to make these kinds of videos on books every month and a half because that seems like a nice time frame to talk about books. If you have any recommendations for me, because now you know kind of what I read, please let me know. I would love to be recommended any cool books. A few of these were recommendations as well. These are my recommendations for you. That's a lot of recommendations in like 1 minute or 30 seconds maybe even. Make sure to like and subscribe if you liked this video, which I'm sure you did because books. You know the drill. Every Wednesday, a new video. Every month and a half-ish, a new video about books. And otherwise, it's gonna be about skincare, adulting, and many more things. Thanks again, and I hope to see you soon, which is next week.